This has been truly, and this is my second Kateri conference. The first one being in my own diocese in Sudbury, this being the second one. So I guess this one, for some of us, I think most of you, has been, I guess, very reaffirming. For others like me, it's been a very good experience to better understand that on this soul, I guess, I don't know, soul-searching journey of yours, we are partners. Real partners. And I guess, for me, I was asked to be a listener, not easy. But mostly, I'd say a silent partner. And you all know what this means in the business world. A silent partner is a real partner, but he remains silent. But he's there. I came in my diocese, Sioux Diocese, 3 years ago from Ottawa. The only Native people I had ever seen, I guess, since my very early childhood and teenager years up till 3 years ago, was, I recall, one who spent most of his life around Byward Market in Ottawa. As you can imagine, it was a very, very poor image. But I've discovered here beautiful things. The good, just heart-to-heart talk I've had with some of you, and the fun, the fray, the sharing, and the focus groups. It's pretty hard to put it all together after these really 3 wonderful days. My heart, my mind, and filled of many things. Flashes and things that cross my heart. I'll try to wrap it up the best I can as far as what I'm sort of taking back home. Let's put it this way.
I think the focus of these conferences, this particular conference being the second Kateri conference, is to explore ways and means of making the church, or making the Native participation within the Catholic Church a reality. What does that mean? Does that mean we still vest and robe with the traditional European garb? Or do we come to worship with the robes that we use in our celebrations, our powwows, our dances, our gatherings, sacraments? What does that mean for sacraments? Do we continue to receive the sacraments in the traditional European Western way? Or can we administer sacrament to each other within the sweat lodge? Does the eagle feather have a significance? Is it really a commissioning? Is it a mandate from the people when you're given an eagle feather to carry? Is that a real mandate? Is it something like the mandate that the bishop does to you when you prepare to study for priesthood within the Catholic Church? How can we bring our traditional and our former cultural ways into reality, into what church should be? Always in mind, of course, is the central fact of our belief that Jesus Christ came, lived, died, and resurrected again for all of us. So we have to express that in a native way. an Aboriginal way, the way we live. Somehow we as Canadians, all of us as Canadian people, have to get in touch with our roots again. And we have to say who we are. And we have to express that in traditional ways of worshiping God, worshiping Christ within our own traditional way, whatever that is. And I believe that Native people have a kind of a unique advantage, that we haven't sort of lost touch with that. Despite the drawbacks and the negative impact that reservation life has had on Native people, alienation, cultural blight, financial and economic deprivation, all of that stuff has had a terrible impact on Native people, but it has not been able to crush the Native spirit, the spirit that says, I am an Ojibwe, the spirit that says, I am a Cree, the spirit that says, I am who I am.
What's happening in the Native people, in our Native communities, and all across our villages, in northern Ontario or wherever it may be, I see this. There's a strong desire to find new ways, very Native ways, to express one's faith.
I think that the pain and suffering of the Native people have really brought us to a sense of, it's like being at the bottom and there's nowhere else to go but up. And so we've started to see and experience the healing, but we see it as a circle, not as a linear pattern. And I think the non-Native society has, and maybe it should be the non-Aboriginal societies, because the Aboriginal peoples in other countries are much the same experience of Aboriginal peoples in Canada, that they have a more holistic picture of life, and so they don't compartmentalize religion on Sundays and work on Mondays and politics on Wednesday. It doesn't fit that way, so all of those are in harmony together.
Well, we have to help ourselves. This kind of sharing, I think, amongst you, Native people and Native and white and all of us together, members of the same family. Partners feel that they're in the same boat. They belong to one another. They're together. So at times it's pretty hard to distinguish the mixed feelings that can be in one's heart.
I think first, probably one of the most fundamental things that we can learn, and I would want to say that I have learned and am still learning, is an incredible respect for the planet, for the earth we walk on. There's a marvelous respect for what grows on the earth, just starting with plants and fruit and vegetables and so on, let alone animals and human beings. But let me just give you an example of where I first learned that respect. I was down on Manitoulin Island visiting some Native people, and they said, let's make some tea. I said, marvelous. Well, let's go pick the herbs. So we went out into the bush to pick the herbs, and we picked mint herbs. But before we took the herbs and walked away, they reached in their pocket, took out their tobacco pouch, took a bit of tobacco out as an offering to the Creator in thanksgiving for the herbs. And I was really touched with just the way they respected where we took the herbs from and how much we took, and the way they just reverenced the earth. If we turn then to the animals, I've heard native elders speak about the qualities of animals. I said to myself, like, I never thought of an animal teaching me something. But their love of animals and their way of looking at animals was that these animals all have specific gifts, if you want. And if we watch the gentleness of the deer and the quickness of the rabbit and so on, then we as human beings can learn something from the way an animal acts and lives and so on. And I thought, my goodness, I was just never crossed my mind. I live in a city on concrete and drive on a bus or whatever in a car, and they tend more to walk on the earth. And the other thing I would say, things like to be more observant, to observe the seasons, to observe what's happening around us, to observe sunsets and sunrises, and to appreciate and give thanks to God for all of those things, the Creator Spirit.
Oh, boy. We got a good fire going now.
Well, I guess these 3 days help us to realize that there are divisions. There are hurts and malaise at times between white and natives. A lot of misunderstanding. And also between native and native on different issues. But as we go beyond words and explanations, we just suddenly like live together in experience. Native, 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 white, white, native, all together. And when you live it, it's not hard.
I recently went back to school, and I did a lot of studying, and a few of my theses were on the residential schools and the adoption scandals and just the treatment of native children, just that, you know, I could really feel like it affected me like on a personal level. And reading some of the things that were native kids had their heads rubbed down with kerosene and stuff like that in the residential schools. They were beaten if they spoke their own language, even if that was the only language they knew. They were beaten, and they were, you know, forced to, I heard of one case where one child who ran away tried to get back home to his parents, and he was forced to stand naked in front of the whole classroom for a whole class, something like that, you know, so it was a real lot of hate. And it took me a while to realize that those actions were the actions of men, like those men priests, and the hierarchy rather than the concepts of Christianity. So when I started getting more into native spirituality and start trying to bring the two together, I realized that the two are actually one if you really think about it, because spirituality comes from within, you know, and the native spirituality, using the sweet grass, the drum, or whatever, the four directions, four colors, sage, tobacco, that's just an outward expression that I feel more comfortable following, you know, like there are many paths to Jesus, as one lady was saying this morning, and I'm comfortable on the path with the sweet grass, the native traditions, native customs, and that's what brings me closer to my Creator. So I think that's how, you know, I became more of a balance in my life, you know. And like I work for a native parish in Toronto, and they're very, very open. And for a while I didn't realize that, and I had a lot of hate in my heart for the church for what they did. But I've come to realize that they're open. They're sort of like this conference, for instance. They're saying, you tell us what native spirituality is, and we'll learn along with you, or we'll learn from you.
That's just nice, though. I love the They're great. Beautiful. Pretty.
not until maybe we kind of look at, well, what's happening in Africa, what's happening with the Aboriginals in Australia, and how is there some kind of enculturation of Christian faith coming in other cultures, and we look at those, and then look at the native culture here in North America and begin to say, well, this mediates the love of God. And I would make the distinction then that it will be Christians, in context, Catholic Ojibwe people in this area, who will be those that will begin to say, we would like, for example, to express forgiveness through the sweat lodge. We would like to express reconciliation with the Creator and all of creation and our fellow human beings through this ceremony of the sweat lodge. And I just think as we go into the future and they begin to see this is an act of love and forgiveness and reconciliation, that they will begin to say this is our sacrament of reconciliation. But as a non-native priest, I can't begin to propose that or begin to say, we should do this. I can ask questions, I can be present to them, we can talk. But as I read and study, I mean, I just look at it and say, it's coming. I mean, it's just quietly moving in that direction, as I can see it.
What we're searching for probably is a new language or a new way of expressing who I am as a native person and as a Christian. How can I make my Christian beliefs and my Christian spirituality, my belief in God, and who I am as a native person, how can I make that more than a marriage or more than a walking in harmony? How can I express that so that when I express my belief in God, I am saying that I am a follower of Christ, but I'm expressing this in a native way. I think we need new words. Some people don't like the idea of marriage. They say, no, that really doesn't fit. It has to go deeper somehow. That oneness has to be somehow expressed. And I don't think we're going to find the answers here, but it certainly is a beginning. It's a beginning of a journey that probably will have to continue for always in order to arrive at who we are.
But I grasp gradually. I'm still trying to understand. I can't put it all together. Probably will never will. That there has been a very strong storm inside that has been blowing for centuries in the hearts of the people I want to be a silent partner with. We are partners. When I reflect out loud, we share the same faith. There's one faith. The same Lord. There's one Lord. Because we share the same baptism. And when a new side, I think, of the face of Christ is actually, I think, being emerges, like, being revealed, the whole family rejoices because suddenly they experience something they have never seen before. Of who? Of the one who is our life and our hope, Jesus. This becomes an occasion for mutual growth, very special and understanding. And then the partnership becomes much more than a partnership, silent or non-silent partners. I think it has a different name. Brotherhood, sisterhood, fraternity. Barricades come down. Here there's no barricades. We share. And we try to understand. And we say, we're called to journey together.